Valeria Torres was hired to protect Nathaniel Blake. She never expected to fall for the man whose heart and secrets she was meant to guard. But when business crosses the line into something real, will trust survive? Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. The early morning sun filtered through the blinds of Valeria Torres's small apartment as she laced up her running shoes. At 29, her daily 5-mile run was as much a part of her routine as breathing. The discipline had stayed with her long after leaving the army. Her phone buzzed with a text from her mother. Roof started leaking again. "Don't worry. Put a bucket under it." Valeria frowned. She'd been saving for months to fix that roof, but her last security assignment had ended unexpectedly when her client decided to move to Europe. Money was tight, and her sister Maria's college tuition was due next month. After her run, Valeria showered and put on her usual work attire: black pants, white button-up shirt, and a blazer that concealed her shoulder holster. As a private security officer, she had a reputation for being the best in the business. No nonsense, no drama, just protection. Her phone rang. It was her boss, Frank. "Torres, I've got a job for you. Big client. Needs security for a gala event this weekend." "What's the catch?" Valeria asked, already suspicious of Frank's eager tone. "It's Nathaniel Blake." Valeria paused. Everyone in New York knew that name. CEO of Blake Renewables, one of the biggest clean energy companies in the country. After a scandal nearly destroyed his reputation a decade ago, he'd rebuilt his empire from the ground up. "He's particular," Frank continued. "Wants to meet you first." An hour later, Valeria sat in the reception area of Blake Renewables' Manhattan headquarters. The glass and steel buildings screamed power and money, neither of which impressed her. "Ms. Torres?" A sleek woman with a tablet approached. "Mr. Blake will see you now." Valeria was led through a series of corridors to a corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Standing with his back to the door, hands clasped behind him, was Nathaniel Blake. When he turned, Valeria understood why gossip columns constantly featured him. At 32, he had the kind of looks that commanded attention: sharp jawline, piercing blue eyes, and dark hair with just a touch of silver at the temples. His tailored suit probably cost more than her monthly rent. "Ms. Torres." His voice was deep and controlled. "Your reputation precedes you." "As does yours, Mr. Blake," Valeria replied, maintaining eye contact. A hint of a smile played at his lips. "Please sit." Valeria remained standing. "I prefer to stand for initial assessments. Tells me more about the space." Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise, maybe respect. He gestured to a chair. "I insist." She sat, but on the edge, ready to move if necessary. "Old habits." "I have an unusual request," Nathaniel began, sitting across from her. "The Goodman Foundation Gala is this Saturday. It's crucial for my company's latest environmental initiative. Investors will be there, people whose support I need." "And you need security," Valeria concluded. "Not exactly." Nathaniel's gaze was direct. "I need a date." Valeria blinked. "I think you've called the wrong service, Mr. Blake. Let me clarify. I need someone who appears to be my date, but is actually there for security purposes." He leaned forward. "Someone who can handle herself in any situation. Someone who won't get caught up in the glamour or the gossip. Someone—" His eyes swept over her with clinical assessment. "Like you." "You want me to pretend to be your girlfriend?" Valeria couldn't keep the disbelief from her voice. "My date," he corrected. "One night. I'll triple your usual rate." The amount he named made Valeria's breath catch. That would cover her mother's, Ruth and Maria's tuition with some left over. "Why not hire an actress?" she asked. "Too unpredictable, too likely to believe it's real." He stood and walked to the window. "I need someone who understands contracts, someone who won't confuse business." "With pleasure," Valeria considered his offer. It went against everything she believed in professionally. She protected clients, she didn't pose beside them. But the money— "I'll need to wear my weapon," she said finally. Nathaniel turned, one eyebrow raised. "That might be difficult in an evening gown." "I don't do gowns." "You will for this?" His tone left no room for argument. My stylist will provide everything you need. The dress will accommodate a smaller weapon. Ankle holster, perhaps. Valeria stood. I have conditions. I don't smile on command. I don't hang on your arm. And I keep my earpiece at all times to communicate with your regular security team. Agreed. Nathaniel extended his hand. Do we have a deal, Ms. Torres? She hesitated, then shook his hand. His grip was firm, his hand warm. One more thing, she added. You treat this like a contract, nothing more. His blue eyes studied her. Of course, nothing more. 3 days later, Valeria stood in front of a mirror in a hotel suite, barely recognizing herself. The black dress hugged her athletic frame, the slit high enough to reach her thigh holster. Her usually tied-back hair fell in soft waves around her shoulders. A knock at the door startled her. Nathaniel stood there looking devastating in a custom tuxedo. For a moment he simply stared at her, something unreadable in his expression. You clean up well, Torres, he said finally, his voice slightly rougher than usual. So do you, Blake, she replied, tucking her compact gun into her thigh holster. In the limousine, Nathaniel briefed her on the guests she would meet. Senator Williams will try to corner me about the new energy bill. The Andersons will talk about their son who's just perfect for me. And watch out for James Porter. He's been trying to acquire my company for years. Valeria nodded, mentally cataloguing the information. Anyone potentially dangerous? Only to my patients, Nathaniel replied dryly. When they arrived at the gala, the flash of cameras was blinding. Nathaniel placed a hand lightly on the small of her back, guiding her up the steps. His touch was businesslike, but Valeria felt an unexpected warmth spread through her. Inside, the ballroom glittered with crystal chandeliers and New York's elite. Valeria assessed the room automatically, identifying exits, security personnel, and potential trouble spots. Nathaniel. A woman in a red dress approached, air-kissing both his cheeks. The prodigal son returns, and with such a unexpected companion. Valeria caught the slight pause, the veiled assessment. Alexandra, this is Valeria Torres, Nathaniel said smoothly. Valeria Alexandra Winters, chair of the foundation. Charmed, Alexandra said, not sounding charmed at all. And what do you do, dear? I keep people safe, Valeria answered simply. Alexandra's perfectly sculpted eyebrows rose. A bodyguard. How progressive of you, Nathaniel. Valeria has quite an impressive background, Nathaniel replied, his hand still on Valeria's back. Army military police, decorated service in Afghanistan, now one of the most sought-after security specialists in the city. Valeria gave him a surprised look. He'd done his homework. As the evening progressed, Valeria found herself the object of curious stares and whispered comments. She maintained her composure, standing tall beside Nathaniel as he worked the room. During dinner, she was seated beside an older man who introduced himself as Richard Porter. So, he said, swirling his wine, how did you meet our elusive Mr. Blake? Through work, Valeria replied. Ah yes, the security business. His tone was condescending. It must be challenging for someone of your background. My background? Well, you know, your people are naturally more physical than intellectual. The table fell silent. Valeria set down her fork carefully. My people? She asked quietly. No offense intended, Porter continued, oblivious to the danger. It's admirable, really, how you've risen above your circumstances. Valeria smiled, a smile that never reached her eyes. Mr. Porter, I speak 3 languages, have a degree in criminal justice, and could disable you in 7 different ways, using just this dessert spoon. She picked up her spoon, turning it slowly in her fingers. But you're right about one thing. My circumstances did shape me. They taught me to recognize men who mistake inheritance for intelligence, Porter sputtered, his face reddening. Across the table, Nathaniel watched the exchange, something like admiration flickering in his eyes. After dinner, as they moved to the dance floor for the obligatory first dance, Nathaniel pulled her slightly closer than necessary. That was quite a takedown of Porter, he murmured. I apologize if it was unprofessional, Valeria said stiffly. Don't. His hand tightened on her waist. It was the highlight of my evening. As they danced, Valeria became acutely aware of how long it had been since she'd been this close to anyone. Nathaniel moved with the same precision. He seemed to approach everything. Calculated, controlled. You're surprisingly good at this, he commented. My mother insisted on dance lessons, said no daughter of hers would step on a man's toes. The E. Memory made her smile slightly. A smile, Nathaniel noted. I was beginning to think it wasn't in your repertoire. Don't get used to it, she replied, but there was no edge to her words. Later, as they prepared to leave, Nathaniel was pulled aside by a group of investors. Valeria stood at the bar, sipping water and scanning the room. A woman sidled up next to her. You've caused quite a stir tonight. Valeria turned to see a striking blonde in a green gown. Excuse me? Nathaniel Blake doesn't date. Ever. The woman extended a manicured hand. Christine Bailey, Blake Renewables PR Director, and you, my dear, are a gold mine. Before Valeria could respond, Nathaniel appeared at her side. I see you've met Christine. Just introducing myself, Christine said, her smile calculating. The photos from tonight are already trending. The CEO and the soldier. People are intrigued. We're leaving, Nathaniel said firmly, guiding Valeria away. In the car, Valeria noticed Nathaniel was unusually quiet. Is everything okay? She asked. Did the investors not bite? They bit, he replied, looking out the window. Thanks in part to you. To me. I barely spoke to them. Nathaniel turned to face her. You don't realize the impression you made tonight. You weren't trying to impress anyone, and that's exactly what impressed them. He paused. And me. The admission hung between them, unexpected and unplanned. When they reached her apartment building, Nathaniel insisted on walking her to her door. At the threshold, an awkward silence fell. Well, Valeria said, contract fulfilled. Nathaniel seemed to struggle with something. About that. Christine was right. The press is interested. In us. He handed her an envelope. Your payment? As agreed. But I have another proposal. Valeria took the envelope, feeling its weight. I'm listening. My PR team thinks we should continue this arrangement. A few more public appearances. It's good for the company image. He hesitated. I'll make it worth your while. She should say no. This was already complicating what should be a straightforward professional relationship, but the thought of her mother's roof, Maria's education... I'll think about it, she said finally. Nathaniel nodded, his expression unreadable. Good night, Miss Torres. Good night, Mr. Blake. As she closed the door behind her, Valeria leaned against it, heart racing unexpectedly. This was just business, she reminded herself. Just a contract. So why did it feel like something was shifting inside her? Something she'd kept locked away for years. Valeria's morning run the next day was interrupted by constant phone notifications. By the time she got back to her apartment, she had 17 missed calls. 3 from Frank, 2 from her sister Maria, and the rest from numbers she didn't recognize. She called Frank first. Torres, have you seen the papers? He asked without preamble. No, why? You and Blake are front-page news. Every society column is talking about New York's most eligible bachelor finally finding love. What happened to just providing security? Valeria felt her stomach drop. It was part of the job. I was posing as his date. Well, congratulations, you're famous now. I've had 6 clients call asking specifically for you today. After hanging up, Valeria checked her email. There it was, a message from Christine Bailey with photo attachments. The photos showed her and Nathaniel dancing, his hand on the small of her back, both of them looking at each other with an intensity that made Valeria's cheeks warm. The headlines were even worse. Power couple alert, Nathaniel Blake and mystery woman set tongues wagging. The CEO and the soldier, Blake's new romance breaks the internet. Her phone rang again. This time it was Maria. Val, why didn't you tell me you were dating Nathaniel Blake? Her sister's excitement bubbled through the phone. Mum and I saw the pictures online. You look gorgeous. Is he as intense in person? Are you in love? Tell me everything. Maria, slow down. It's not what it looks like. It was a job. A job that involves looking at him like he hung the moon? Come on, Val. I haven't seen you look at anyone like that since, well, ever. Valeria sighed. It's complicated. Life is complicated. Love shouldn't be. After assuring her sister that there was nothing romantic going on, Valeria hung up and stared at the envelope Nathaniel had given her. The money would solve so many problems, and his offer of continuing the arrangement. Her phone rang again. Unknown number. She let it go to voicemail. Then a text message appeared. It's Nathaniel. We need to talk. Breakfast? Half an hour later, Valeria sat across from Nathaniel at a small cafe in a quiet corner of the city. He wore casual clothes, jeans and a simple button-down shirt, so different from his business persona that she almost didn't recognize him. I apologize for the media circus, he said after the waiter brought their coffee. Christine is enthusiastic. Is this what you wanted? Valeria asked directly. To create a spectacle? No, his answer was immediate. I wanted a quiet evening to secure investors. I didn't expect, he gestured vaguely, this. Then why suggest continuing the arrangement? Nathaniel studied his coffee. The board is pleased. The investors are pleased. Everyone keeps talking about how I've finally opened up and shown my human side. He looked up, his blue eyes meeting hers. Apparently I've been too cold for too long. And you think pretending to date me will fix that? I think, he hesitated, searching for words. I think there was something genuine in how we interacted last night. You don't pretend, Valeria. You don't fake smiles or laugh at bad jokes. You're honest in a world where that's rare. Valeria felt a flutter in her chest that she quickly suppressed. You're paying me to be honest? I'm offering to pay you to continue what we started. A mutually beneficial arrangement. You get financial security. I get a different kind of security. For the first time, he looked uncertain. The kind that comes from having someone real by my side. Before she could respond, the waiter returned with their food. Valeria used the interruption to gather her thoughts. How would this work? She asked finally. A few events over the next month. The charity auction next week. A dinner with International. Investors, the company's anniversary gala. Nathaniel pulled out a small tablet and slid it across the table. Full schedule, dates, times, and compensation. The figure at the bottom made Valeria's eyes widen. That's fair, Nathaniel finished. For what I'm asking. She looked up from the tablet. And what exactly are you asking, Mr. Blake? Nathaniel, he corrected. If we're going to convince people we're dating, you should probably use my first name. Nathaniel, she conceded. What are the expectations? Public appearances together. Some casual outings, restaurant openings, perhaps a weekend in the Hamptons. Enough to be convincing without being overwhelming. And private expectations? Valeria asked, her voice carefully neutral. Something flickered in his eyes. None. This remains a business arrangement. Valeria tapped her fingers on the table, weighing the offer. I need to maintain my other clients. This can't be exclusive. Of course, I'll need advance notice for scheduling, that's all. And if I find this arrangement becomes uncomfortable, you can terminate it at any time. Nathaniel leaned forward slightly. I value consent, Valeria, in all things. In all. The intensity of his gaze made her look away. 1 month trial, she said finally. We reassess after that. Agreed. He extended his hand across the table. As their hands met, Valeria felt that same unexpected warmth from the night before. This was dangerous territory, but the practical part of her brain, the part that worried about bills and family obligations, overruled her caution. Their relationship began to follow a careful choreography. Lunch at trendy restaurants where photographers happened to be waiting. A Saturday afternoon at a gallery opening, where Nathaniel kept his hand lightly on her back as they discussed modern art that neither of them particularly enjoyed. A charity auction where they bid together on a weekend getaway that Nathaniel insisted she keep. I don't need a vacation, Valeria protested as they left the auction. Everyone needs time away, he replied. Even you. What surprised Valeria most was how comfortable she felt with him. Behind his controlled exterior, Nathaniel was thoughtful and unexpectedly funny, with a dry wit that matched her own pragmatism. During a benefit concert seated in a private box, she caught him watching her instead of the performance. What? She whispered. You hum along, he said softly. I didn't know you liked classical music. My father played cello, she admitted, before he left. It was the first personal detail she'd shared, and she immediately regretted it. But Nathaniel didn't press, just nodded and turned his attention. back to the stage, his hand finding hers in the darkness. The following week, Valeria accompanied Nathaniel to a dinner with international investors. The stakes were high, a potential partnership that would expand Blake Renewables into Europe. Before entering the restaurant, Nathaniel stopped her. These people can be sharks. They'll try to use anything as leverage, including you. I can handle myself, Valeria assured him. I know. That's why you're here. He straightened his tie nervously. Impulsively, Valeria reached up and adjusted it for him. You've got this, she said quietly. Their eyes met, and for a moment, something unspoken passed between them. Then Nathaniel nodded, squaring his shoulders, and they went inside. The dinner was tense, full of pointed questions and veiled implications. When one investor asked how Nathaniel planned to avoid another scandal like the one a decade ago, Valeria saw his jaw tighten. Mr. Blake has built his company on transparency and innovation, she said before he could respond. The past is a foundation, not a limitation. Nathaniel gave her a grateful look. Later, as they reviewed contracts, he excused himself to take a phone call. One of the investors leaned toward Valeria. You know, we were surprised when Nathaniel started appearing with you, he said in accented English. After what happened with Sophia, we thought he'd never trust anyone again. Sophia? Valeria asked, curiosity getting the better of her. His fiancée during the scandal. She sold his company secrets to competitors, then claimed he was the one who betrayed the company. The investor shook his head. Almost destroyed. Him. He was exiled from his own family for months until the truth came out. When Nathaniel returned, Valeria saw him with new eyes. The control, the distance he kept from everyone, it made more sense now. Outside, after the dinner, rain began to fall. Nathaniel opened an umbrella, holding it over both of them. You were brilliant in there, he said, a genuine smile warming his features. They're signing the deal. Congratulations, Valeria replied, suddenly aware of how close they were standing. I couldn't have done it without you. His voice had dropped lower. You were right, I did have it in me. The rain fell harder, drumming on the umbrella. Water dripped from Nathaniel's hair, and without thinking, Valeria reached up to brush it away. Her hand lingered on his cheek. Nathaniel's breath caught. He leaned in slightly, his eyes asking a question. The blare of a car horn broke the moment. Valeria stepped back, her heart pounding. We should get out of the rain, she said, her voice not quite steady. In the car, they sat in charged silence until Nathaniel spoke. I want to show you something, if you don't mind a detour. 20 minutes later, they pulled up to a modest building in Queens. A sign read, Torres Family Community Center. Valeria stared in confusion. What is this? Come see, Nathaniel said, leading her inside. The small center was bustling with activity despite the late hour. Children worked on homework at tables, while adults attended what appeared to be an English class in another room. An older woman approached them. Mr. Blake, we weren't expecting you tonight. Maria, this is Valeria Torres. Maria's eyes widened. Torres? Are you related to Eleanor Torres? She's my mother, Valeria said, feeling increasingly disoriented. Your mother is an angel. She's been volunteering here teaching our citizenship classes. She mentioned her daughter was in security work, but she never said... Maria trailed off. Looking between them, this place was about to close 6 months ago, Nathaniel explained, as they toured the facility. Your mother wrote to Blake Renewables requesting support. Her letter was compelling. I provided funding anonymously. She never told me, Valeria said, taking in the renovated spaces, the new computers, the kitchen where meals were being prepared. She didn't know it was me specifically, until recently. Nathaniel stopped walking. When your name came up for the security position, I recognized it. I wanted to meet the daughter Elena spoke so highly of. Valeria turned to him, processing this new information. You knew who I was before you hired me. I knew your name. Nothing more. His expression was earnest. Everything else, who you are, what you've accomplished, that's all you, Valeria. As they left the center, Valeria was quiet, trying to make sense of this connection she'd never known existed. Why show me this now? she asked finally. Nathaniel looked out at the rain-slicked streets. Because tonight I realized something. This arrangement between us. It's becoming something I didn't expect. Valeria's pulse quickened. What do you mean? I mean that when you spoke up for me at dinner, it wasn't part of our contract. When you fixed my tie, when you smiled at my terrible joke about renewable energy, none of that was in our agreement. He turned to face her. And when I almost kissed you in the rain, that definitely wasn't part of the deal. The air between them felt electric. Nathaniel, she began. Let me finish, he said gently. I've spent 10 years building walls to protect myself from another betrayal. I don't do relationships. I don't trust easily. But with you, he took a breath. With you, I feel safe. The word struck her like a physical blow. Safety. The one thing she provided to others but rarely felt herself. I don't know what this is, Nathaniel continued, but I'd like to find out. No contracts, no arrangements, just dinner. You and me. As what? Valeria's voice was barely above a whisper. As two people who might have met anyway, if the universe had been a little kinder earlier. He smiled, a vulnerable, hopeful smile. What do you say? Dinner tomorrow. Off the record. No cameras, no investors, just us. Valeria knew she should say no. Mixing business with personal feelings was a recipe for disaster. She had walls for a reason, the same reason Nathaniel did. Protection. But looking at him now, she saw something. She recognized someone who understood what it meant to guard yourself, to expect disappointment, to build a life around control because the alternative was too frightening. I don't do fragile, she said finally. Nathaniel's smile deepened. Good. I break too easily. The car pulled up to her apartment building. This time, when he walked her to her door, the silence between them was charged with possibility. Tomorrow, at 7, he asked. Valeria nodded. I'll be ready. After he left, she called her mother, who confirmed everything about the community center. He's a good man, that Mr. Blake, Elena said. Behind all that serious business talk, he listens. Not many rich men do that. Later that night, as Valeria prepared for bed, her phone pinged with a message from Nathaniel. In case I wasn't clear, tomorrow isn't work. It's a real date. I'm actually nervous about it. Sleep well, Valeria. She smiled at the screen, surprising herself. This wasn't supposed to happen. He was a client, nothing more. But as she drifted off to sleep, she realized something had shifted. For the first time in years, she'd gone a whole day without checking her gun 3 times or scanning every room for threats. For the first time in years, she felt something like peace. Retry JC. The next morning, Valeria woke to the sound of rain against her window. Her phone showed 3 missed calls from Christine Bailey. With a sigh, she called back. There you are. Christine's voice was energetic despite the early hour. The photos from last night are gold. The investors are practically throwing money. At Nathaniel, after seeing how you two looked at each other. We were just doing our job, Valeria said, uncomfortable with how the line between pretense and reality had blurred. Well, whatever you're doing, keep it up. The board wants to discuss extending your arrangement. Nathaniel mentioned you were having dinner tonight? Valeria frowned. That's personal. Honey, nothing's personal when you're dating Nathaniel Blake. I've already arranged for you to be seated at Emilio's. Table by the window, perfect lighting, excellent sightlines for the photographers. No, Valeria said firmly. No photographers. No publicity. If Nathaniel and I have dinner, it's private. There was a pause. Did something happen between you two? That's none of your business. Valeria ended the call, her hands shaking slightly. Her phone immediately buzzed with a text from Nathaniel. Christine just called. Ignore her. Tonight is just us, I promise. The simple message settled her nerves. She was being ridiculous, letting herself feel things for a client. This was exactly why she never mixed business with personal life. Later that morning, she visited her mother's house to help with some repairs. Elena Torres was in the kitchen, humming as she cooked. There's my famous daughter, Elena teased, wiping her hands on a dish towel before embracing Valeria. Why didn't you tell me about Nathaniel Blake? It's complicated, Mama. Valeria set down her toolbox. It started as a job. And now? Elena's eyes were knowing. Now I don't know what it is. Valeria sank into a kitchen chair. He showed me the community center. Why didn't you tell me he was your sponsor? Elena shrugged. I didn't know it was him specifically until recently, and you never seemed interested in my volunteer work. She sat across from her daughter. He's not what I expected. When he visits, he sits and talks with the children, asks about their homework, remembers their names. Valeria tried to reconcile this image with the controlled businessman she'd first met. He's taking me to dinner tonight, she admitted. Not for work, a real date. Elena smiled. Good. You've protected everyone else for too long. Maybe it's time. Someone protected your heart for a change. Mama, don't start planning the wedding, Valeria groaned. I'm just saying you've kept people at a distance since your father left. Not everyone leaves, Mika. The words hit harder than Valeria wanted to admit. After her father abandoned them, leaving behind mountains of debt and 3 children for Elena to raise alone, Valeria had stepped up. At 16, she'd become the protector of the family, working after school, making sure her siblings stayed out of trouble, watching over her mother as she worked 3 jobs. Protection had become her identity, her armor. As she worked on her mother's sink, Valeria's phone buzzed with a message from her regular security client, Marcus Wentworth. Need you tomorrow night. Family has received threats. Call me. The reminder of her real job was grounding. Whatever happened with Nathaniel, she couldn't forget who she was, what she did. That evening, Valeria stood in front of her closet feeling ridiculous. She'd never worried about what to wear for a date before. Usually, her dates were casual, straightforward affairs that rarely led to second meetings. Men tended to find her intensity intimidating. She finally settled on a simple blue dress she'd bought years ago for a friend's wedding. Nothing fancy, but not her usual practical attire either. At exactly 7, there was a knock at her door. Nathaniel stood there holding a small bouquet of wildflowers. He'd also dressed more casually, dark jeans and a light blue button-down, shirt that made his eyes seem even bluer. You look beautiful, he said, and the simple sincerity in his voice made her cheeks warm. You clean up nice yourself, she replied, taking the flowers. Not your usual designer suit. I save those for people I'm trying to impress. He smiled. Tonight I just want to be comfortable, with you. He drove them to a small Italian restaurant in a quiet neighborhood, nowhere near the flashy establishment. Christine had mentioned. The owner greeted Nathaniel by name, leading them to a corner table away from windows. You come here often? Valeria asked as they were seated. This was my father's favorite restaurant before he became successful. We'd come here for special occasions. A shadow crossed his face. Before everything changed, they ordered wine, and as they waited for their food, the conversation flowed more easily than Valeria had expected. Away from work, Nathaniel was different, more relaxed, less guarded. Tell me about your family, he said. Your mother seems remarkable. She is. After my father left, she held us together. 3 kids, no support, mountains of debt he'd hidden from her. She never complained, just worked harder. And your siblings? Maria is studying environmental law. Gabriel is in the army, stationed overseas. She twirled her wineglass. Your turn. Family? Nathaniel's expression tightened slightly. My father built Blake Industries from nothing, expected perfection from everyone, especially his sons. My older brother James was the golden child. I was the disappointment. Hard to believe, Valeria said. I wasn't interested in the family business originally. I wanted to study environmental science. My father called it a waste of time. Nathaniel's voice was controlled, but she could hear the old pain beneath. When I finally joined the company after college, I was determined to prove myself. And then the scandal happened, Valeria said quietly. Nathaniel looked up sharply. You know about that? Only what one of the investors mentioned. Something about someone named Sophia? He was quiet for so long that Valeria thought he wouldn't answer. Then, Sophia was my fiancée, and my father's spy. The waiter arrived with their food, providing a momentary reprieve from the tension. When he left, Nathaniel continued. I was developing a new division focused on renewable energy. My father thought it was a waste of resources. Sophia was feeding him information, helping him undermine me. His fingers tightened around his fork. When things fell apart, she claimed I was the one selling company secrets to competitors. My father believed her. What happened? I was ousted from the company. My family cut me off. I lost everything. My reputation, my future, my family's trust. His eyes met hers. But I rebuilt. Found investors who believed in clean energy. Started Blake Renewables. Proved my father wrong. And now you're about to expand into Europe, Valeria said. That's impressive. What's impressive is surviving betrayal and still being willing to trust again. He reached across the table, his fingers lightly touching hers. Something we have in common, I think. The simple touch sent warmth through her. I don't trust easily. Neither do I. That's why this is significant. His gaze was intense. I haven't felt this way in a very long time, Valeria. Before she could respond, her phone buzzed insistently. Marcus Wentworth's name flashed on the screen. I'm sorry, I need to take this, she said, stepping away from the table. Marcus, now isn't a good time. Valeria, someone broke into my house. My family is terrified. I need you here now. Her security instincts kicked in immediately. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Call the police if you haven't already. When she returned to the table, Nathaniel was already settling the bill. Emergency? He asked, his expression understanding. Yes, I'm sorry. Never apologize for doing your job. He stood. I'll drive you. In the car, Valeria explained the situation. When they arrived at the Wentworth estate, police cars lined the driveway. I can wait, Nathaniel offered. This could take hours, Valeria said. You should go, he nodded, but seemed reluctant. I enjoyed tonight, even if it was cut short. So did I, she admitted. Impulsively, he leaned across the center console and kissed her cheek. Be safe, he whispered. The simple gesture left her momentarily speechless. She watched him drive away before turning her attention to the crisis at hand. The break-in at the Wentworth home kept Valeria occupied until dawn. Nothing had been stolen, but threatening messages had been left in the children's rooms. It was personal, targeted, exactly the kind of situation that required her full focus. By the time she returned to her apartment, she was exhausted. She checked her phone to find several messages from Nathaniel, asking if she was okay and hoping the situation had been resolved safely. His concern was touching. Different from the possessive worry she'd experienced with previous partners, he respected her job, understood her responsibilities. Over the next few days, they fell into a pattern. Valeria would handle her regular security clients during the day, then meet Nathaniel for dinner or a quiet evening at his penthouse. They talked for hours about everything and nothing, their childhoods, their dreams, their fears. One evening, curled up on his couch watching an old movie, Valeria found herself lowering her guard. Nathaniel's arm was around her shoulders, her head resting against his chest. Tell me something you've never told anyone, he said softly. Valeria was quiet for a moment. I still sleep with the lights on sometimes, she admitted. When the dreams about Afghanistan get bad. Nathaniel's arm tightened around her. What happens in the dreams? I'm back there, in the firefight where we lost Reynolds and Martinez. I can hear them calling for help, but I can't reach them. Survivor's guilt, Nathaniel said, his voice gentle. Maybe. Or just knowing that protection has its limits. She turned to look at him. I couldn't save them. Sometimes I wonder who else I'll fail to protect. You can't save everyone, Valeria. I know, but I keep trying. She sighed. Your turn. Something you've never told anyone. Nathaniel was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, I've always envied people who fight for things they can't control, like family or love. The vulnerability in his voice made her heart ache. She reached up, her fingers tracing his jawline. You're fighting now, your company, your vision for clean energy, that's worth fighting for. What about us? He asked quietly. Is this worth fighting for? Instead of answering, Valeria leaned up and kissed him. Unlike their carefully choreographed public appearances, this was real, unscripted, unpracticed. His arms tightened around her, pulling her closer. When they finally broke apart, Nathaniel rested his forehead against hers. "I'm falling for you, Valeria Torres," he whispered, "and it terrifies me." "Me too," she admitted. "I don't know how to do this, how to be vulnerable without feeling exposed. We'll figure it out together." The next morning, Valeria woke in Nathaniel's bed, his arm draped protectively over her waist. For a moment, she allowed herself to imagine a future with this man, a future where she didn't have to be strong all the time, where protection went both ways. As she slipped out of bed to make coffee, Nathaniel's laptop on the kitchen counter caught her eye. It was open, his email visible, on the screen. She wouldn't have looked, but her own name in the subject line drew her attention. Valeria Torres relationship strategy. Heart suddenly racing, she clicked on the email. It was from Christine, dated 2 days earlier. "Nathaniel, the board is thrilled with the public response to your relationship with Ms. Torres. As discussed, I've outlined strategies for leveraging this connection for the European expansion. If you continue this relationship through the investor conference next month, we project a 15% increase in public confidence ratings. Attached is a draft press release about your inspiring romance for your approval. We'll need more personal details about Ms. Torres to really sell the narrative. Christine." Below it was Nathaniel's draft reply, never sent. "Christine, I understand the business implications, but I need to consider how this relationship could be spun moving forward. Valeria is different from what I expected, and I'm concerned about mixing personal feelings with business strategy. Let me think about the best approach. N." The words hit Valeria like a physical blow. Leveraging this connection. Sell the narrative. Business implications. All this time she'd been falling for him, opening up, letting down her walls, and he was still calculating the business advantages. She set down the coffee mug with shaking hands. The sound of the shower running in the bathroom stopped. Moments later, Nathaniel emerged, hair damp, a towel around his waist. "Morning," he said with a warm smile that faltered when he saw her expression. His eyes flicked to the laptop, then back to her face. "Valeria, don't." Her voice was ice. "Just don't." "It's not what it looks like," he said, stepping toward her. "Really? Because it looks like I'm still part of your business strategy." She gestured to the laptop. "Leveraging our connection, selling the narrative. Was any of this real, or am I just another asset to be managed?" "Of course it's real. That email was from before us." He reached for her, but she stepped back. "I never sent that reply. I was confused, trying to sort out my feelings." "Your feelings?" Valeria repeated flatly. "What about mine? Do you have any idea what it took for me to trust you? To let you in?" "Valeria, please. I was hired to protect you," she said, gathering her things. "Not to make you feel human." "That's not fair," Nathaniel said, his voice rising. "You know, that's not all this was." "Do I? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like I'm still just doing a job, playing a part in your corporate strategy." She picked up her bag. "I quit." "Valeria, wait." But she was already out the door, her walls firmly back in place, her heart locked down tighter than ever. Back in her apartment, Valeria threw herself into work. She took on more clients, longer hours, anything to keep her mind occupied. She sent back the dress from the gala, the watch he'd given her as a gift, the small earpiece she'd worn at events. With the package, she included a note. "I was hired to protect you, not make you feel human." Maria called daily, concerned by the sudden change. "What happened with Nathaniel? Mom said you were happy." "It was business, Maria, nothing more. That's not what it looked like in the photos, or what it sounded like." "When you talked about him," Valeria sighed. "Looks can be deceiving." In the weeks that followed, Valeria saw Nathaniel's face everywhere. On business magazines announcing the successful European expansion, on gossip columns speculating about their breakup, on billboards promoting clean energy initiatives. She deleted his messages without reading them, blocked his calls, buried herself in protecting others because it was safer than examining her own wounded heart. Frank assigned her to a new high-profile client, a visiting diplomat with security concerns. The assignment would last a month and required her full attention. It was perfect timing. The night before she was to begin the new job, Valeria did a final equipment check. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It's Christine Bailey. I know you don't want to talk to him, but you should know the truth. He turned down the European deal after you left. Said he couldn't proceed with something built on the foundation of deception. I've never seen him like this. Valeria deleted the message. It didn't matter. She had a job to do, people to protect. That's who she was, who she'd always be. As she closed her equipment case, her phone rang again. This time it was her mother. Valeria, I need you to come to the community center. There's a problem with the funding. Mama, I have a new assignment starting tomorrow. This is important, Mika, please. Something in her mother's voice made Valeria agree. An hour later, she pulled up to the community center. The lights were on despite the late hour, but the parking lot was strangely empty. Inside, the main room was quiet. No children, no classes, no volunteers. Mama, she called. Movement from the back office caught her attention. The door opened and Nathaniel stepped out. Valeria froze, her heart hammering in her chest. Nathaniel stood there, hands in his pockets, looking tired and uncertain. What are you doing here? Where's my mother? She demanded. Helena's fine. She helped me arrange this. He took a tentative step forward. You wouldn't answer my calls or texts. I needed to talk to you. We have nothing to talk about. Valeria turned to leave, but his next words stopped her. I turned down the European deal. She paused, her back to him. That's not my concern anymore. I couldn't go through with it. Not after what happened between us. His voice was rough with emotion. Not when the foundation would have been built on manipulating you. Valeria slowly turned around. Christine texted me. I know, I asked her to. Nathaniel ran a hand through his hair, disheveled in a way she'd never seen before. The board thinks I've lost my mind. Maybe I have. What do you want from me, Nathaniel? He gestured around the center. I wanted you to see this place again, to remember what brought us together in the first place. A job, she said flatly. The contract? No. He shook his head. Your mother's letter, her passion for this community, the same passion I saw in you from the first moment we met. Valeria crossed her arms. The email, Nathaniel. You were planning how to use our relationship for business. I was confused, he admitted. Everything with you happened so fast. It wasn't supposed to be real, but then suddenly it was, and I didn't know how to handle it. He stepped closer. I've spent 10 years calculating every move, controlling every variable. And then there was you, unpredictable, uncontrollable, and I was terrified. Of what? Of feeling something real again, of being vulnerable. His voice dropped. Of loving. Someone who could walk away. The word hung between them. Love. Such a simple word for such a complicated feeling. That email was me trying to hold on to control when I was already falling. I never sent it because I realized what was happening between us was more important than any business deal. His eyes met hers, raw with honesty. I chose you, Valeria, but I was too late. Valeria felt her carefully constructed walls wavering. How do I know this isn't just another strategy? Because I'm standing here, looking like hell, begging you to give me another chance when I should be in London, closing the biggest deal of my career. He gestured to his rumpled appearance. Look at me. I haven't slept properly in weeks. Christine is ready to fire me as her own client. I've turned down the expansion that I've worked toward for years. He took another step toward her, close enough now that she could see the dark circles under his eyes, the tension in his jaw. I've never fought for anyone before, he said quietly. I've never had anyone worth fighting for, but you make me want to be braver, to take risks that have nothing to do with business and everything to do with the heart. Valeria felt her own heart pounding. I don't know if I can trust this. Trust you? I know, he nodded. Trust has to be earned. I'm willing to spend as long as it takes earning yours back. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small earpiece, the same one she'd returned to him. Let me be the man who protects you this time. The gesture, so simple, yet so meaningful, made her throat tight with emotion. I don't need protection, she said, her voice not quite steady. Everyone needs someone watching their back, even the strongest people. He held out the earpiece. Partners protect each other. That's what I want us to be. Partners. Valeria looked at the earpiece, then at Nathaniel. She thought of all the walls she'd built over the years, after her father left. After Afghanistan, after every disappointment and loss. Walls meant to protect her heart, but that had also kept out the possibility of real connection. Slowly, she reached out and took the earpiece from his palm. "One chance," she said quietly, "but I need time. And honesty. Complete honesty." The relief that washed over his face was palpable. "Whatever you need. I'm not going anywhere. I have an assignment starting tomorrow. A month-long security detail." Nathaniel nodded. "I understand. Your work comes first." "Not first," she corrected. "But it's important to me. Who I am. It's part of what I admire about you." He smiled slightly. "Your dedication, your strength." The tension between them eased slightly. Valeria tucked the earpiece into her pocket. "I should go. I need to prepare for tomorrow." Of course, he didn't try to touch her, respecting the boundaries she'd set. "Can I call you?" She nodded. "Yes. But Nathaniel..." She paused at the door. "I'm not good at this, at being vulnerable." "Neither am I," he admitted. "Maybe we can figure it out together." The month that followed was unlike any relationship Valeria had experienced. While she worked her security detail, Nathaniel called every evening. Sometimes their conversations lasted hours, sometimes just a few minutes. But each call ended the same way, with Nathaniel saying, "I'm still here, still fighting for us." He sent her simple gifts: a thermos of cinnamon coffee, her favorite, a new tactical flashlight for work, a book of poetry he thought she might enjoy. Nothing extravagant, nothing showy, just thoughtful reminders that he was thinking of her. When her assignment ended, he was waiting outside her client's building, leaning against his car. No driver, no entourage, just him holding a thermos of coffee. "Welcome back," he said simply. They started again slowly. Coffee dates, walks in the park, quiet dinners away from cameras and publicity. No contracts, no arrangements, no pretending. One evening, as they sat on a bench overlooking the Hudson River, Nathaniel handed her a folder. "What's this?" she asked. "Blake Renewable's new security proposal. I'm looking to hire a head of security for the company. Someone who understands both personal and corporate protection." Valeria opened the folder, scanning the details. The position was perfect. Challenging, well compensated, with a team to manage. "Are you offering me a job?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. "I'm offering you an opportunity," he corrected. "One that would be yours based solely on your qualifications. The board has already approved the hire based on your resume alone. They don't know about us." "And what about us?" she asked quietly. Nathaniel took her hand. "That's separate. That's personal. I want you in my life, Valeria. Professionally, if you're interested. But personally, no matter what. The job is yours if you want it, regardless of what happens between us." She studied his face, searching for any sign of manipulation or calculation. All she found was honesty and hope. "I'll think about it," she said. 2 weeks later, after thorough consideration and conversations with Frank about transitioning her clients, Valeria accepted the position. The work was challenging and fulfilling, allowing her to build security. Protocols that protected not just Nathaniel, but hundreds of employees. At work, they maintained professional boundaries, but after hours, their relationship deepened. Nathaniel met her family properly, enduring Maria's enthusiastic interrogation and Gabriel's protective questioning during a video call. Elena already adored him from his work with the community center. Valeria also met Nathaniel's family, his stern father who seemed perpetually disappointed, his mother who drank too much wine at dinner, his brother who still treated Nathaniel with thinly veiled contempt. She understood better now why he had built such high walls around himself. "They're not easy," he apologized as they drove away from the family dinner. "Neither am I," she replied, squeezing his hand, "but you fight for what matters." 6 months into their relationship, Nathaniel took Valeria back to the community center. The place was transformed, expanded to include a job training facility and health clinic. Children ran through the halls, adults attended classes, and a sense of hope permeated the building. "Your mother's vision," Nathaniel said as they toured the new facilities. "I just provided the resources." In the main hall, they found Elena teaching. a citizenship class. She waved at them but continued her lesson. "She's amazing," Nathaniel said, watching Elena with admiration. "She fights for everyone around her." "She taught me everything I know about protection," Valeria admitted. "Not the tactical stuff, but the heart of it, why it matters to stand between harm and the people you care about." Nathaniel turned to her, taking both her hands in his. "You taught me the same thing. Before you, I thought protection meant control. Controlling outcomes, controlling emotions, controlling relationships." His eyes held hers. "You showed me that real protection means being willing to be vulnerable, to risk your heart for someone else's well-being." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Valeria's breath caught. "I'm not asking yet," he said quickly, seeing her expression. "It's too soon and we both know it." He opened the box to reveal not a ring, but a small silver key. "This is the key to my home. No contracts, no expectations, just an invitation to share my space when you want to, at your own pace." His smile was gentle. "I'm still fighting for us, Valeria, every day." Tears pricked at her eyes, not from sadness but from the realization of how far they'd both come. Two people so wounded by the past, so careful with their hearts, learning to trust again. She took the key, closing her fingers around it. "I love you," she said for the first time, the words feeling right, feeling true. His eyes widened slightly, then softened. "I love you too. Have for a while now." As they left the community center hand in hand, Elena watched them from the window, smiling. Her daughter, who had spent so long protecting others, had finally found someone to stand beside her, not behind her. In the car, as they drove back to the city, Valeria's phone buzzed with a security alert from work. She checked it quickly, then put her phone away. "Problem?" Nathaniel asked. "Nothing the team can't handle." She looked at him, at the man who had broken through her walls not by force but by patience, by honesty, by fighting for what mattered. "Tonight is just for us," he smiled, reaching for her hand across the console. "Partners," he said softly. "Partners," she agreed, squeezing his hand. 6 months later, Valeria moved into Nathaniel's penthouse, bringing with her exactly 3 boxes of possessions and a lifetime of carefully guarded emotions. They established new routines: morning runs together, coffee on the balcony, late-night conversations about everything and nothing. At work, they maintained their professional relationship, earning respect from the board and employees alike. After hours, they built a personal life that neither had thought possible before, one based on trust, honesty, and mutual protection. One night, as they stood on the balcony overlooking the city lights, Nathaniel wrapped his arms around her from behind. "Remember when I said I wasn't asking yet?" he murmured against her hair. Valeria turned in his arms. "I remember." He smiled, that rare, unguarded smile that still made her heart skip. "I'm asking now." This time, when he reached into his pocket, the box held a simple but elegant ring. As he knelt before her, Valeria felt no urge to run, no need to protect herself. "Valeria Torres, you were hired to protect me, but you ended up teaching me what protection really means. Standing beside someone, fighting for them, loving them through the hard parts." His voice was steady, his eyes clear and certain. "Will you marry me, be my partner in every sense of the word?" Valeria looked at the man kneeling before her, the man who had fought for her when she'd walked away, who had earned her trust back day by day, who had seen her strength not as a challenge, but as something to admire. "Yes," she said simply. Then, with a small smile, she added, "But I'm keeping my gun." Nathaniel laughed, standing to slide the ring onto her finger. "I wouldn't have it any other way." As they sealed the promise with a kiss, Valeria realized that for all her years of protecting others, she had finally found something she hadn't known she was looking for. Someone who made her feel safe enough to lower her guard, to be vulnerable, to love. She had been hired to protect. She had stayed to love. And in that love, she had found the greatest protection of all. The end.